All right, Nathan, you can go ahead and get started.
All right, welcome everyone to our December meeting for the Brantford Heritage Committee. The roll call has been taken by the clerk. I call the meeting to order. Just some housekeeping items that we say at the start of every meeting to remind everyone about these Zoom meetings that we are now having. So all members should remain muted when not speaking for the meeting to reduce feedback. All web cameras for Heritage Committee members shall be turned on. Staff will be requested to join the video meeting should a need to answer questions arise. Persons who have registered for this meeting and who are speaking to applications will be brought into the meeting upon introduction of the item. Any member of the Heritage Committee, should they indicate to wish to speak by praising the raise hand icon on the participant screen list. In the event of a connection service interruption that occurs and affects the quorum of Heritage Committee, we may recess the meeting for up to 15 minutes to regain quorum. If quorum is not achieved, the meeting will be adjourned. All members of the Heritage Committee shall participate via online video conference and will vote by a physical show of hands. The chair will indicate to leave your hands raised until he has determined the result of the vote. And finally, thank you for your patience as we navigate this new pathway. So first of all, to start off this meeting, I'd like to provide some thanks to some members of the Heritage Committee who have completed terms on the Heritage Committee. So first of all, we have Leslie Smith, who sat with us and filled a vacancy, and she was here for 1 year. We also have Ben Gardner, who was an archaeologist and provided us with some good insights on that aspect. And she was a member of this committee for 12 years. And finally, we had Cindy Mcdonald, who was the former chair of this committee. And she had served on this committee for an astounding 18 years. So we really want to thank all these people for their commitment, their time, their advocacy work for heritage, and also volunteering their time to sit on this municipal committee. So thank you to all those people. And as such, you will also notice some new faces around our screen tonight. So we have two new members, Tamara Capoli and Christopher Johnson. So normally at this point in the meeting, when we do an in-person meeting, I ask members of the committee to kind of share why they joined the committee and their interest if they have a specific area. And for our new members, introduce yourself a little bit to us, tell us why you were interested in the Heritage Committee, and maybe what you're hoping to learn over your time here. So I'll just go in order of the people on my screen, perhaps, for this. So maybe I'll do my introduction first. So my name is Nathan Etherington. I'm the chair of the committee. I work at the Brant Museum and Archives. So I am the Brant Museum and Galleries Association representative to the committee. And through my work, I often see a lot of these historical names, have a lot of the historical context for the history of the city. And so that's a very sometimes helpful thing to be able to bring to the committee. So next on my screen is Susan Kaplan.
Good evening. Had to unmute myself. Susan Kaplan. I've been on the committee, I think, a year and a half now. I am recently retired from the precast industry, and my focus to participate on the Heritage Committee is to basically give back to the community. So to utilize my skills, my background, and offer what I have back to the community.
Great, thanks, Susan. Next on my screen is Councillor Mccurry.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I'm Dan Mccurry, Ward 3 Councillor, and one of two council reps assigned to the Heritage Committee. I've been, I guess, the council rep on the committee for probably about 15 out of my 17 years, I think. And it's actually where I got my start in municipal politics, was as a member of the Brantford Heritage Committee from 1990 to 1995. And I should tell you that of all the councillors that have come to council from various municipal organizations, I believe the Heritage Committee has been the most prolific, serving up 3 future councillors, one of whom I served with, Marguerite Chesky-Smith, and another one was John Starkey. So this is the path to fame and glory, folks.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Mccurry. Next, I have Lise Marie Jansen.
Hi, Lisa Marie Jansen. I've been on the committee, I think, since 2011. Passionate about cultural natural heritage. I help do the research to help save Langford Schoolhouse. So I like research.
Yep. Great. Thanks, Lise. Next on my screen is a new member, Tamara.
Hi, gang. Yeah, I guess I wanted to take part in this committee too. I'm not from Brantford, I'm not born and raised, but started working here downtown at the Bank of Montreal about 25 years ago. So really got to see the original architecture that was around the area, and was when it was still a library down there, not a university. But now that I've been in real estate now for 12 years, we also do home construction and development in the area too. So we've seen lots of changes with Brantford, and I'm looking forward to what's coming next. But at the same time, I want to preserve, what makes Brantford Brantford. It's that hometown that everybody loves. That's why I'm here.
Great. I look forward to your insights and what you're going to bring to the committee. Next on my screen, I have Rob Adlam.
Hello, my name is Rob Adlam. I am a representative on the committee from the Canadian Industrial Heritage Centre group. And as the name implies, I have an interest in the city's industrial heritage. I was born and raised in Brantford. I'm the 5th generation of my family to work in Brantford's industries. So has a special interest and appeal to me, as well as Brantford's history in general.
Thanks, Rob. Next, we have our other new committee member, Christopher.
Hello, I'm Christopher. Sorry, I'm Christopher, or Chris for short. I am new to this committee, and I'm actually a student at Laurentian University's McEwen School of Architecture, currently studying architecture. And I hope to eventually specialize in conservation and heritage buildings at some point in my career. And I hope that by being in the Heritage Committee, I get to learn more about it and to get my foot in the door.
Great. We like to have some architects around. Councillor Wall.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Joshua Wall. And I guess Dan will be pleased to hear that Heritage Committee was where I got started too. I was on this committee before I was on council. I was the liaison for the Downtown Business Improvement Association. And once I got elected, I asked to please be on this committee because it was one of my favorite, and it was also my first. And I think this is going to be my 3rd year on the committee. And I just think it's amazing. Brantford has an incredible history and culture and heritage, and it's worthy of preservation and distinguished commentary and just being promoted and loved. And that's why I'm here. And I'm happy to see new members. So thank you so much for being on this committee with us.
Thank you. Next, I have Ed Bernanke.
Hi. My interest, I think I joined, I grew up in Brantford, left decades ago, so I moved around 3 countries and 8 cities, but just developed a real interest in architecture design, and my functional expertise is in sort of in the area of creativity innovation. So I'm all for, buildings to me are, it's what inspires societies. So I'm all for trying to resurrect whatever we can. but also to make sure the new is worth preserving tomorrow. There is so much disposable architecture that doesn't motivate. That just bothers me. For Christopher, a zillion years ago, I graduated from Laurentian too. Long time ago. There you go.
Great tie-in. Okay, next on my screen is Sarah Clark.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Clark. I'm an archaeologist with the firm ARA. We've done some work around Brantford, but I am born and bred in Brantford. I lived in KW for like 8 years or so, but still came back to Brantford afterwards. And I joined in 2011. So it was kind of on the heels of the south side of Colburn Street being demolished. And I thought, I want to be a part of helping protect our heritage resources in the city. So that's what got me involved in the first place. And it's kind of evolved from there. So.
Great. And last but not least, Anne-Marie.
Good evening, and thank you, Chair. My name is Anne-Marie Boak. I own a business downtown. I sit on the BIA, and I'm a representative on the Heritage Committee for the BIA. Thank you.
Great. So I think that's very helpful to kind of familiarize for some of our new members who members of the committee are, and also learn a little bit about what these new members are going to bring to the committee. So thank you for entertaining that for a moment there. So moving forward with our agenda, we'll move on to item 2, declarations of conflicts of interest. This is a time where if you had any conflict of interest with anything in the agenda, you would declare it now. Seeing none, item 3 is presentations and delegations, of which there are none for tonight's meeting. So we will move on to item 4.1, items for consideration, proposed alteration to 73 George Street. We have a presentation. I would now call upon Jillian Holmes to speak to the application. And as a reminder, you have 10 minutes to present, inclusive of questions. So Jillian, when you're ready, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Jill. Thank you for the introduction. I applied for this permit on behalf of Wilfrid Laurier University. So we're proposing to replace the current 2 post signs in front of 73 George Street, our Carnegie building, and replace it with a single landmark sign. Do you guys have the images that were submitted? Did you want, I don't know if I can share my screen. I could pull them up if that's helpful to view it while I talk about it.
Patrick's just going to pull them up for you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we can look at this image here. So we're proposing replacing those 2 existing signs and replacing it with this landmark sign. The reason this location was chosen was because it is our university's address. It's the first building the university had in Brantford, and it's also the location of our Welcome Center, which is where any new students or prospective students are going to go for the first time when they arrive at Laurier. So we wanted to give this building a little bit more of a Laurier presence and make it easier for wayfinding as well. So we worked with consultants to come up with this new design because our current landmark signs are very modern and didn't fit with this application. So we wanted to be able to work within our brand standards, but also create something that complemented the Carnegie building as well. So the base of the sign, the idea was to match the current landscape of the concrete that's already in front of the Carnegie building. And then we've included a glass background so that it kind of decreased the mass of the sign and didn't make it so intrusive. So you could still see that heritage behind the sign, and then still be able to include our Laurier brand within the sign. That's just a brief overview. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments.
Okay. We'll just wait for the screen to go away there for a moment. Does anyone have any questions for the presenter? Okay, seeing none, thank you for your presentation. I will now call upon planning staff for their presentation.
Thank you, Chair. We'll start back with my presentation. So again, thank you everyone. So this is my staff presentation for application HA0920 for the Carnegie building at 73 George Street. So the property is actually designated individually by City Bylaw 13678, so in 1978. Contextually though, the building and the property are surrounded by the Victoria Park Square Heritage Conservation District. So while the other properties that front onto Victoria Square and Victoria Park are under Part 5 of the Act, this property is actually designated under Part 4. And it was designated prior to the district. The district itself was designated in 1991. So for context, we just have a view of the front of the Carnegie building as it exists today, showing the two ground signs that were mentioned by the applicant, one flanking on either side of the entrance stairs. As the applicant has indicated and shown in their application, the alteration, the new sign will be placed on the south side of the entrance stairs. If looking at the building, that would be on the right-hand side. The sign itself will be in line with the foot of the stairs. Based on the dimensions provided by the applicant, staff have reviewed that against the sign bylaw, and so the location of the sign conforms with all the requirements of the sign bylaw as far as setbacks. These setbacks are in place to ensure pedestrian safety and sight lines, to make sure that traffic on the sidewalk or traffic entering a property can see pedestrians. They ensure that the signs are located sympathetically on the property. They don't encroach onto another property adjacent to where they're being installed. And so again, we reviewed this on the sign bylaw side, and there is conformity. With respect to the district guidelines in the Victoria Park Square, we reviewed those just because of the context of this site, even though it's not within the district. The design of this property and any alterations to this property will have a relationship to the district. So looking at the district study, we found that the district study does prefer that signs be installed on buildings and have a relationship to the entrance, but it's not an absolute. The district study does acknowledge that in some cases, ground signs are actually more appropriate given the context of the history of a particular building. In this particular situation, staff think this is an excellent place for a ground sign. Given all the architectural details on the Carnegie building itself, it'd be difficult to install a sign on the facade without obstructing any of the existing features. So staff are glad to see that there's a ground sign being proposed. With respect to size, the primary guide or regulation for size, again, falls within the sign bylaw. For ground signs, the maximum size permitted by the bylaw is about 24 square meters. So in comparison, the full size of the applicant's proposal, including the base, the full height, all the area, works out to about just over 6 square meters. So well within the maximum size permitted by the bylaw. The guidelines would encourage a smaller sign. For institutional properties, the recommendation is about 2.3 square meters for the largest sign. But as was indicated by the applicant, the majority of the sign will actually be constructed of glass with the sign face, so that'll have that minimizing effect. And the added benefit that the architecture of the building will be seen through the sign. Again, just the rendering provided by the applicant in their submission material showing what the new sign would look like once installed on the property. The applicant has chosen to go with an internally illuminated sign. It is something that the sign bylaw does not support, but is a matter that we do address. And in this case, there are mitigating factors. Firstly, though, with respect to materials, the base of the sign will be constructed of concrete, and that will be to match the existing landscaping features, the plaza space in front of the building, the existing design of the landscaping. So that will ensure that the base of the sign blends in with the existing property. Metal is another supported material for signage. So with respect to the construction materials, two of the materials meet the sign bylaw guidelines. There's also an allowance for different materials, whether used tastefully or creatively. In this case, the glass, while not explicitly called out as a supported material, certainly is an appropriate use of the new material. With respect to color, the applicant is proposing three main colors: black for the large Laurier lettering, purple will be used for the smaller motto font, the Inspiring Lives, as well as the maple leaf logo. And then the sign band along the bottom, constructed out of aluminum, will be white with a pearl effect. So fundamentally, we see in our sign bylaw guidance that signs should be simple in their design. And while we have a very modern sign, it still falls on a very simple premise of light background, dark lettering, and contrast. The purple color is with the Laurier brand, and so the use with the maple leaf logo and the motto text ties that in without overpowering. It's a very tasteful and appropriate use of brand identity with respect to the heritage nature of the streetscape. The applicant provided additional renderings. This one shows the sign illuminated at night. So you can see in the rendering, there would be light coming from the windows of the building, the lighting standards on the stairs, and then the edges of the logo and wording would be what is illuminated. So a more isolated image provided by the applicant, which shows the extent of the internal illumination. So while the letters would have internal LEDs, the face of each letter and the maple leaf logo would be opaque. So when we have this prohibition, it comes from the concern with light box style signs. Typically, they are very simple designs that don't respect the heritage nature of a streetscape. They're not always high quality signage. And we can have the effect where light is essentially spilling on the entire streetscape from one of these light box signs. In this case, the lighting, while internal, really just serves to highlight the edges of each letter or the logo, and it doesn't outshine the heritage nature of the building itself or the streetscape. It's very tasteful, it's very restrained. So while it's modern, it's not, it is a very sympathetic design. And with the district, we see a range of eras. Not every building is from one era. There's not one type of signage that contributes to the heritage streetscape. It's the high quality signage that we see that contributes to the mix of heritage and the mix of eras that we see. So while the sign is internally illuminated, it does comply with all other requirements of the sign bylaw. So staff are supportive of the design, but note that the internal illumination does require approval of a minor variance. Minor variances for the sign bylaw are handled by the Committee of Adjustment. So accordingly, here we see the final sign, what it would look like during the day. But ultimately, staff recommend that the request to alter the designated property be approved, but on the condition that there's receipt of confirmation that the required minor variance has received its final approval. And so we say final approval because with any minor variance, there's a 20-day appeal period open to the public, anyone who has made a delegation or written statements on the application. So once we receive that final approval, know that there is no appeal and that the matter is settled. That's when staff recommend the heritage permit is issued. So that ends my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the Heritage Committee.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Any questions for Patrick? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna ask one because you brought it up, Patrick, that this was 1978 when we designated this building. Is there any older designated? Is this the oldest designated one? Do you know? Just out of interest.
I don't have those dates in front of me. I could certainly look. I think a candidate could be Victoria Park itself, but again, I don't have a bylaw date in front of me.
Okay, thanks. So with that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder for the motion. Marie moved, and a seconder, Lise Murray. Thank you very much. Any discussion on the motion? Anyone wishing to speak to it? Lise, go ahead.
I just think that it's a nice example to have as a modern sign in the Heritage District. I'm actually pretty impressed with the fact that it has the glass, especially because then you get to see the building behind it. I think it's nicer than what's currently there. So I'm excited for that.
Great, thanks, Lise. Any other member wishing to speak? Seeing none, then I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, hands down. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, then I'll declare that motion carried. Thank you very much. So you'll move now on to item 4.2, I believe it is, the 2021 meeting dates for the Brantford Heritage Committee. So this was a list of dates circulated to everyone, just informing them of the intended dates for our Heritage Committee meetings for next year. Anything else with that report that staff want to mention?
Hi, I'm Melanie Figueredo, committee coordinator through the chair. So essentially, the reason this was brought forward as an item for consideration instead of a consent item was just because we did move the date from the first Monday of the month to the last Monday of the month. And that was because, again, it was kind of noticed that throughout 2020, apart from cancellations due to other reasons, some of the meetings did run into holiday Mondays and then ran into subsequent issues with the Tuesday of that week due to committee of the whole and council meetings. So this will still allow staff to prepare reports that will need to go to committee of the whole and council in a timely fashion while still maintaining that Monday date. The only anomaly will be February, which is going to be on a Thursday, which is to accommodate budget meetings that'll be going on throughout January and February.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. So everyone take note of that rare Thursday meeting. So we need a mover and a seconder to approve the meeting schedule. Councillor Wall, seconded by Anne Marie. Any discussion on this? I see Tamara raised her hand. I don't know if that's a discussion.
A little bit. Is it always at 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Lise, you also had something, sorry.
The first date that's on there in January, is that a Sunday? Or is my calendar wrong?
You are correct. That is a Sunday.
Okay, it should be January 25th. I will make that change, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Okay. Thanks for pointing that out, Lisa. That's very helpful. Anyone else wanting to speak to this? Councillor Wall?
Great, thanks. Just a question. Because of the whole new normal, do the meetings necessarily have to be at 6 if we're doing it all by Zoom? Or, I mean, do they even have to be? Just curious if it's something that's set in stone, like the time and the date every month, or.
I think that is based on the assumption of like in-person meetings. If you were to meet in person, that's the normal time that it would be scheduled for. So I think it's that for consistency.
And then just maybe for anybody who's new here, the plan is to continue to meet virtual for how long?
Hi, again, through the chair, just to jump in here. So we do have council approval to meet virtually until April, with a report coming to council regarding virtual meetings. I believe it's in March. So we will be, again, unless there is a council decision that comes between now and that time to to do otherwise, we will be conducting them virtually until at least April. And then at which time we'll definitely have an update for the committee and for all city committees as to how we will be operating. But I can say with as much confidence as anyone can say things these days, we will be meeting virtually most likely until April, at least.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Wall. Anyone else with questions about this or comments? No? Okay. Seeing none, then I will call the question on the vote, noting the date of January 25th. All those in favor? Hands down. All those opposed? Nobody. So we declare that carried. The next is consent items. So we need a mover and a seconder for the minutes. And you have to have been here in order to move. Sarah Clark moved, seconded by Susan Kaplan. Any discussion about the minutes? Any errors or omissions that need to be corrected with the minutes? Okay, I don't see any. So then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, hands down. All those opposed? So I declare that carried. Thank you very much. Projects and other updates, there are none. We have subcommittees. I'd like you to review to the new members of the committee, like you to review those subcommittees, and perhaps when we reconvene in person, there will be opportunities to assist with some of this subcommittee work. So there are no resolutions and no notices of motion. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you very much, Susan. Thanks everyone for a great meeting tonight.